Hi, ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, Jeremy. What you were about to hear was the first attempt at recording an episode about The Crow with John and Jamia. This recorded back in early September 2016. It is a far looser conversation that I pretty much let go off the rails immediately because that seemed much more entertaining at the time. So it presented more of a B-side to our episode about The Crow that was recorded. We did it again 2 months later and actually got a proper episode out of that. In this one, we talk about everything from Labyrinth or our stories about moving to Portland, how we got introduced to The Crow, the comic, and everything else. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a dork living in Portland, Oregon who spent too many years listening to podcasts and not doing anything creative. This is my attempt to rectify that, to create and contribute something where I talk to people about their cultural obsessions and try to give some recommendations of my own. Welcome to Giving the Mic to the Wrong Person. Hello everyone, welcome to Giving the Mic to the Wrong Person. I am Jeremy, I am your host. I am with two folks who decided to help donate part of their Labor Day weekend in traveling here to Northeast Portland to hang out in the lovely basement apartment studios where we watched the film The Crow from 1994. And I was to say, can you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Jamia Jefferson. I'm a huge nerd, and I work at Dark Horse Comics, and I write books. And I have the gothic advantage over some other people trying to understand that film.
I'm John Asher. I create some comics sometime, not always. I have an artistic background, and I've always kind of been into nerdy stuff as well, and somehow Jeremy thought I was qualified to comment on this review of The Crow.
Such as it is, yes.
Yes, a review. We're taking it to task.
Well, it's sort of, I'd say sort of review. It's more of a, at this point, after we've had enough beer and wine and spritzers and mixed drinks, and just finished watching the film again. You know, thank you, Lionsgate Blu-ray, for your excellent edition. This is not a plug. Good. This is just the edition available on Amazon.
It's just your heartfelt
seriously
gratitude.
Really good though. I mean, the actual Blu-ray presentation had to give that serious props.
Pretty, yeah.
It didn't have to be that awesome.
That's true. A wonderful presentation, all for about $18 to $12. Oh, check that, $11 to $12 American.
Bitchin'. Yeah. Anyway, Jeremy, you should seize control of these proceedings again.
I just noticed the Christmas lights, the multicolored Christmas lights.
You have to have that in the studio, man. It's like by law.
Well, no, because as I mentioned before, the place we were in was not really wired for domestic inhabitation. It was wired for an office in an old Victorian house, and I much more prefer colored.
Not really.
This is colored. What's up?
It's not really gothic. It's more circusy.
Oh no, this is
circusy, multicolored gothic cave because it has no windows.
I was saying there's nothing gothic about that. I have a large Fallout 4 poster over there, and then another the Wonder Woman DC Bombshells poster behind here, plus a Alan Partridge and a signed poster from Andy Daly from his promo stand-up tour 2 years ago, which is now falling. I think so. Yeah, there's
nothing gothic about this shit.
I have 3 lava lamps on top of the computer desk, sharing
Alan
shelf
Partridge
space.
is the anti-goth.
Yeah,
the exposed brick is a nice.
It is. It's very hip. It's very Portland now.
Yeah. Well, it is, except I guess these the light bulbs we have, the Christmas lights we have in here couldn't quite be considered the de rigueur Edison bulbs that you need for your modern restaurant lighting exposed bulb.
Right.
I mean, hell, even that thing is our single ceiling lamp is a CFL put inside a cheap paper lantern because I want it to look decent.
You know, that's actually Portland now. Sorry, you're still extra Portland now. We're still doing the thing. But on the other hand, I'm really glad that people now understand how important tube amps are. But that means that I can never have one now, because once upon a time, you could just get a tube amp for nothing, because nobody knew anything about whether or not they were, it was worth it. No, it's not really a thing you can do.
But I don't think the tube amp thing has been around for years. It's like
until literally 10 years ago, I would say, especially, and it is very much due to Portland culture, because the same people who started getting really into Portland culture before it was an international thing, because Portland is now done. We're not hip anymore.
Good.
Thank God, I know, right?
Isn't there a place on Alberta that makes artisanal tube amps?
Yes, there is, actually.
More than just Alberta.
All the people I know who are in sort of psychedelic influenced bands, and they're all my friends, became. No, it's actually true.
Yeah, no, it's almost.
I think they're in Mississippi, actually, and I'm not kidding.
It's like a Portlandia sketch.
Yeah, they're actually making artisanal tube amps because they sound so great.
Yeah, no.
And once you've had one, you don't want to use anything else. You got one of those crazy Leslie ones that has the speaker that flips around.
Spinning speaker,
amazing. Yeah. You can't make sounds that sound like that. So, for all the rock and roll bands who've been strip mining our town for the cool parts, yeah, that's actually that's the real thing. And the Japanese, especially, because they love their Beach Boys. Who can blame them?
This podcast being recorded on the 12th anniversary of my arrival in this town.
Yay.
From the other forested city that was Ann Arbor.
How do you feel about that, though? How do you feel about Portland versus Ann Arbor? Because I've known people who've done the opposite, but they're not in Ann Arbor anymore either. Where they moved from here to there. Ann
Arbor, I was born and raised in Michigan, in the scenic, storied town that is Flint, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Escaped to Ann Arbor when I was 18 to, instead of going to the Colorado Springs to join the Air Force Academy, like my original plan was for a while, I decided to say, screw that, I'm just going to go get my engineering degree, and headed to University of Michigan instead.
I weirdly know all about this sort of thing, so yeah,
and
I'm really getting it.
Yeah, double majored in engineering in electrical and aerospace, which kept me in Ann Arbor as an undergrad for 6 years until the year 2000. And by about 99, 2000, Ann Arbor started changing, and check that. The change it was going through was palpable enough that it was a lot less fun, and Ann Arbor started becoming a lot less fun. For example, certain places like the Del Rio closed, which was a local touchstone that was, the excellent, cool hangout, dive bar / restaurant. But, kicked and wound up staying in Ann Arbor for too long, for 4 years. And then finally, after summer of 2004, thanks to internet friends and a day job that I was working in, of all things, the mortgage industry, was able to fly out, do a scouting trip to Seattle, and then first to Seattle, saw that for a few days, and motored down to Portland to check this place out. And by the second day I was here, it's pretty much, F it, I'm moving here. And my internet friends that I was staying with said, okay, sure, well, now we need to find you a place to live. Let's go to Craigslist. And, found a place.
You could do that.
Yeah. This was 2004, ladies and gentlemen. What can you say?
That was a year before I came up, 2005.
Oh, new booty! I love it.
Well, did you know the same Michigan?
It's really changed since I got here.
I came up and knew meaning like Devin and Justin and Sean Hemack and Charity and those folks.
Devin and Justin, I met through Angie and Amanda, which is how I met you.
Through the Kinko's.
Yeah, through the extended Kinko's group. Back when because again, times of well, we are speaking of historical pop culture and other things. This is all years back of in the, before the dark times, before the Empire, before when there still was a thing called Kinko's, before it became FedEx Office, is when indeed cross yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, to as a pour one out for the long lost Kinko's.
I was involved during the middle period when it was FedEx Kinko's.
I think I was there too.
You were there because that's when I met you.
Yes, yeah, I think. Well, that was the. I met you at. I can remember the very first time I ever met like Justin and Devin was like, this would have been early 05, 06.
Yeah, it was probably 05 because I only worked at FedEx Kinko's until March of 06.
Were you at which one were you at? Were you at the Mall 205 or were you at the one on Weidler and 7th?
Yeah, I was 7th and Weidler. I was the Lloyd Center district. It was
Lloyd Center Kinko's.
Disgustingly busy.
Lloyd Center Kinko's.
Oh yeah, no, it's I think I know about. God, like I think I'm still Facebook connected with, I want to say 8 people who were there for years or there briefly. Like get a hold of guys like Adam Mullet and.
I love that guy.
The weirdest thing is like his room. He came out here from Ann Arbor before I did, and he was roommates with another college radio buddy of mine, because the world is just that small.
I love it. Portland is basically like this hotbed of incest that never really happened here, like jobcest.
Well, there's
like dorm roommate cest, but from places that are not actually from Portland, because the people have moved there, and yet they moved in the same kind of circles, and so like the same dramas come up again and
Michigan
again.
and Portland.
And then there's the Michigan, and there's the Michigan Portland thing. There's the DC and Portland thing where I got caught up in that for a while. I'm from Colorado. There's been no drama with that because people don't really come here from Colorado.
Well, it's Colorado. Well, there are certain, call it destination cities.
Yeah.
Where
we're starting to bounce back and forth a little bit now, because the cultures of the two cities are really kind of like financially similar.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sorts of things that make a lot of money tend to be similar between the two cities. So you get a lot of people like kind of establishing roots in both towns and kind of being able to interact with the general culture there. But at the same time, so much of just like the weirdness of both towns hasn't really, like, they haven't made it across to each other, which is kind of fun because then I get to be weird in that Denver way and people think it's fresh and original. It's totally not. It's just something they haven't seen before.
That's true. Well, it could be that the weirder parts, or I mean, it could be a form of
really weird too.
A form of sampling error where and I bring that because the people in one city who most exhibit what could be considered behavior, comprising the weirder parts, do not have the liquid capital and are not in the correct life position to easily make that jump. What is it? It's like what, 12? It's like what, 12, 16 hours? How far is it to Denver from here on the road?
As a drive? If you're going to be sane, it's about 22 hours.
Okay, yeah.
24 hours if you're actually relaxed about things and you can, like, actually take it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's 28 hours. And
yeah.
Or at different times of the year, it can be 28 to 30 hours of a drive.
Oh, yeah. I've motored from...
I've only done it once, and it was pretty amazing. And it was the straight drive through. It was about 24 hours, my friend was driving, and I was not expecting to go on that road trip, so I was just like, wow, okay. And then we ended up at Evergreen State College, where they immediately smoked me out really, really, really hard, and spent the next like 24 hours baked out of my mind. So like that's an anomaly, and I don't measure any other life events compared to that in any way. So like unfortunately that means that drive, that really specific one, was really it's a little strange to me.
Singular.
It's singular. I mean, a really wonderful time. I mean, I remember it with crystalline clarity. There was a note on one of the cabinets of the dorm that we were staying in at the Evergreen State University that had a little drawing of a cat, a cartoon drawing of a cat, and the words, "Do not get our kitty witty baked." And then on the bottom part of the flyer was another shot of another scene of the adorable cartoon cat, like with X's for eyes and a skull floating up from its face, to remind the people in that particular domicile that they shouldn't trap their like 9-week-old kitten in the cabinet and then blow smoke at it, because it would result in death.
Please don't hotbox the small furred life
don't
form.
Hotbox any small life forms at all. But the fact that they had to put up a sign, which means that it had happened multiple times by then.
Days since last recorded accidents,
Exactly.
085, and then it's like scratched out, and 001 it's scratched out again.
Really, to me, that's I still want to go there, but that's what the Evergreen State College means to me, and I kind of want to go there.
You hope to go back there someday?
I would like to see what it's like to go to school at a place like that, because no one can really conceive of what that's like unless they've done it, where you have no directions of any kind, no strictures and no directions. You create your own curricula, you create your own lesson plans, and you deliver your own work according to your own rules. And the better you can do that, the better grades that you get.
So no gods, no masters.
That's right. So almost nobody actually graduates from that place.
I knew someone in high school who at one point was looking at Evergreen, and that's what I remember hearing
the most
about the
famous
place.
Evergreen State College graduate is Matt Groening of The Simpsons. Huh. The second most is Linda Berry of Ernie Pook's comic, his girlfriend at Evergreen State College and still his best friend. Those are the kinds of people that you get from that environment and that learning opportunity. And like some of the sharpest minds I've ever met were the people that we were staying with. And I was like, oh dear God, the Pacific Northwest is filled with incredibly brainy people. What am I going to do? This is going to be, oh boy, I can't actually rest on my laurels anymore, can I? The Pacific Northwest is different.
Exactly. And on that note, we will take a break. We'll be right back. John, what's your story? How did you wind up here?
In Portland, Oregon.
Yes. Where did you? I guess to say when did you start from?
I was born in New York City in '77. I grew up there until I was 13, and that summer, my father and mother and brother and myself, we all got a moving truck and packed up the car and I think we had the car. The cars were driven out to us by a company. We took a flight out to San Diego, and I guess they bought a house there, and we moved into a suburban tract house in San Diego.
Wow, that's a ways to go.
Yeah, it was strange.
That's like the precise opposite of the country.
It was a very strange thing for me. My youth was like very urban. My neighborhood was really urban, and used to being
in northeastern America, where it's urban and you have multiple seasons.
New York in
multiple
particular.
seasons, but like just the culture shock. I mean, there was
The density of New York it's simply not replicated anywhere else in North America, basically.
There's only one city that meets it, and I think only Boston is close enough to it.
Well, have you been to Toronto and Boston? Because I've only
Yes.
been to Boston. And you think that Boston contains that level of, like, unbelievable urban density?
Well, maybe it's you
Just like
subdivided
so
by
many hustles
Parts
going
of
on,
it
so many
do.
Parts of it
businesses,
do. I
so
guess-
many people, so many places to live. There's just like
I guess if
every
you-
block has like a million people doing amazing shit on it.
I guess if you
York
divide it by if you dividing it by subdivision, but then again with Toronto you don't have as much of the of a water barrier as you do in New York, or like technically Boston too. But I say this as someone who I was born. I lived in a large state surrounded by Great Lakes, so that's where I'm coming from. All right, so you guys moved. You moved to whole family pulls up stakes and moves to San Diego.
When you were 13,
and you were 13. Perfect. God, 19.
God.
You left town right before the real world started. That's got to be damaging.
It was it was really interesting. It was right in the middle of the Bush 1 administration.
David Dinkins as mayor. Yeah.
And it was prior to the Gulf War, and that was a huge thing in San Diego, because San Diego was a big military town.
Right.
Yeah, this was a major naval operation.
It was Navy and Marines alike, and so the overflow of patriotism coming out of San Diego during the time of the Gulf War, yellow ribbons everywhere, and like moments of silences to support our troops, and all this. It was people had the American flags and the cars and it was just
overwhelming.
It was overwhelming, and I had no idea that it was any different than anywhere else. I just thought that, wow, this is crazy, the way society suddenly like so pro-military. I mean, and I kind of followed the CNN reality show of the Gulf War, and it doesn't seem like the troops are really in that much trouble. I think they're going to be just fine. I think they're gonna pull out of this one okay.
Right. Well,
despite our
and then it was fine, and then it was like really
fire.
actually completely not fine all of a sudden, and we're only just now.
I mean, they only really
need
need to be protected from what they're exposed to in our own military and friendly fire. But
we still lost I can't even remember what the active number. It was like what low three. We lost low three figures of service folks at the time, but this was just like during the active conflict, but later the almost like Agent Orange, the after effects, from
Gulf War syndrome.
Gulf War syndrome, yes, Gulf War syndrome, PTSD, and from on was just almost like uncountable numbers.
But do you remember they had I mean, I guess it was sort of like the war that like America hadn't really been in an all-out combat mission since and this was
since
our
Vietnam.
chance. This was our chance to do this is going to be our good war, and they had the what did Bono and all the other celebrities come and sing the song about voices that care. It was stand strong, stand proud. Voices that care are crying out loud. And when you close your eyes tonight, feel in your heart how our love burns bright. It was the song to our troops.
Well, that one I don't remember. I still remember the modern Yeah, this was early 91 maybe version of like the remix of All We Are Seeing Is Give Peace a Chance, which I think was just like on the put out, because I remember it running on MTV right up until the
I remember that. It had Sean Lennon.
yeah, it had Sean Lennon, yeah.
And Yoko. You know, and that, I think it pisses me off how she's all about Sean. And Julian never really gets a fair shake as being John Lennon's heir. But
even the dude himself, had a properly pop singing voice and actually had some decent pop hits, mullet notwithstanding. But
I like Julian Lennon.
Yeah, a controversial stance, no doubt.
He had that one. But it's much too late for goodbye. And it's much too late.
Don't worry about Julian. He's fine.
Yeah, they all get residuals. It's okay.
He's been doing all right. He's got his own career. He's got his own money coming in, unlike Mr. Sean. Sorry, Sean.
So, anyway, so we fast forward to several years past the troubles of the early '90s. How did you wind up here?
Oh, how did I get to Portland? I was working for a web development company in the early I guess in 99, 2000 was when I got hired, and I worked at a web company for about 3 years, and I had a pretty severe MS attack that took me out of commission for a few weeks to a month and a half or so. Went back to work when I hadn't fully recovered, but started working again, and I actually had a second MS attack before I had really completely healed from the first.
Oh, wow.
For the first time that left
I'm not laughing at
you get a
I'm
pass.
laughing alongside you.
You get a pass, right? You can laugh all you want. You got it worse than I do.
I just know about the going back to work before you're fully recovered, and it's like, oh no, don't do that.
So I went on
do
disability. I went on disability in 2004 after my my unemployment state disability ran out from the second MS attack, and in 2005 I was kind of healing up a little more. I was able to talk better. I was able to walk better. I was kind of wanting to just change my scenery, and my buddy Devin, who'd been working on me for a long time to try and get me to move in with him in Portland, Oregon. He, I guess he would ask me every few months, and he did again, and I took him up on it. So that's, and I had a graphic novel that I'd been working on for a number of years that I really was kind of like a pet project that I always wanted to finish, which I did, up in Portland.
Good.
It was good to have to be done with it. It was published in 2011 by Cackling It Press. That's Devin's small press imprint.
Nice. What's the title of your graphic novel?
Neil, like the name Neil, Neil, just
Neil.
But it's kind of a double entendre with like Neil, Nil, or nihilism and nihilism and existentialism, because there's a lot of like those really dark existential crisis to nature of reality, Twilight Zone style like themes play into it.
Sign me up.
Yeah, you say that. Well,
no, really.
It was shopped around to Dark Horse quite a bit.
Well, that's a different conversation that we're not allowed to have on a podcast.
Yeah, I was to say depends. Yeah, it depends on the era too, now, doesn't it? But
yeah. Yes,
no,
I'm afraid.
There were several friends that kind of took a shine to my project and were kind of helping to coax me along the way and groom me for certain publishers or whatnot, but nothing really panned out in the end. And yeah, it's nice to have it, done with in the rearview mirror, because there's a lot of things I would have done differently, and there's a lot of things I think it will help me to do better. The next time I have the courage to work on one project for over 10 years.
It doesn't take courage. It takes like part of your brain shutting down. The part that says, "Don't do that." That takes up an enormous amount of time and effort. Don't do that until that part of your brain breaks down. No, you're not going to do a follow-up. But if that part of your brain breaks down, good luck. I can't wait to see it. It sounds amazing.
James Gunn actually just posted a thing on his Facebook talking about the about how the nature of massive artistic success usually entails killing off or failing at part of your life, because if you're so
I've already killed off multiple parts of my life. Where's my reward?
It's more of I think it's more of a correlative than a causal thing.
Oh, God damn it!
It comes along with it, but it won't necessarily trigger it.
I can't just opt out of that and then I've got an automatic leg up on that. Oh shit!
Luck is too much of a thing.
Is that trying to bring part of your focus into a sharper focus by eliminating whatever was competing with it in your life? I really loved to do Taekwondo when I was a teenager, but I knew I was not going to make that a focus of my professional career, so I kind of had to abandon.
Yeah.
Even
I think
I could have been a contender, though.
It's more. How do you treasure human interaction in your life? How much does that actually matter to you? Because if it doesn't matter all that much, how about you just get rid of it altogether, and then suddenly you have all this time and energy to put into your creative project? I'm serious, it works.
That's a fatal flaw.
It works. It's so great, but you cannot. It takes an amount of will that I don't think is okay for people to have to be able to consciously bring that on. Because I've done it both by accident, and it's also happened with my conscious effort to do that. And it was incredibly productive. But it's really hard on you, in years. The future years where you would have really it would have helped you to have a certain social help with a certain kind of resiliency to overcome a particular trauma that you have to deal with, where
a grounding,
almost in a lot of ways a deromanticization of a particular kind of trauma that it's way too easy to romanticize and say this gives it's the Batmaning. This trauma gives me superpowers. Actually, and that it will, but it also comes at a cost that you don't really get to see that happening to Batman unless it's one of those really, really, really grimdark comics adaptations where Batman is basically a drooling imbecile of revenge, and he's completely useless for every single thing except for vengeance killing and detective work. And I'm just that rings true to me, actually.
Are you invoking the Frank Miller Batman?
I'm invoking both the Frank Miller Batman and also I can't remember his name.
What era?
Fairly recent, sometime in the last 10,
Snyder,
11 years. No, in comics.
Grant Morrison?
Then you can't do the kinds of things on screen that the sort of released from moral obligation almost altogether Batman is capable of doing.
Wasn't Grant Morrison more of a fun Batman
he can
than
be
like
fun,
the dark
but he's
and
also
brooding.
really scary sometimes. Warren Ellis actually
oh dear
did a Batman story of just let's stop faffing about with all this, Batman's kind of a gentleman and he won't kill the innocent. But fuck that bullshit. We're gonna show what he'd actually do to bring about justice, and he would absolutely coldly assess a person's worth in terms of society in general. and say, you know what, it doesn't really matter if this person is killed. It doesn't really make that much of a difference.
Yeah,
I'll totally kill this person to make a point to bring this bad guy to me.
He's like the Ayn Rand enforcer of society.
Exactly.
He's like,
and I can't remember the name of the project, but like I know it really well because I was just like, that is messed up. And yet I really am kind of into this vision of Batman, and I kind of hope that like we maybe get to see this kind of character on screen, because that would be really powerful.
have you seen the animated The Dark Knight Returns?
Oh yes,
I just saw that for the first time, and I hadn't read. I mean, I've read the book a bunch of times, but not for years. And
that's a hell of a thing.
I mean, I seem to remember, I the satire and the darkness of the political commentary, and how much of a like right wing survivalist perspective like Frank Miller brought to the table.
Yeah,
it's.
I mean, if anything, if we can maybe like move this a little bit back towards the film concept. If Batman. If an adaptation of that had been done and brought to the big screen, directed by Paul Verhoeven, to like bring it all completely without any kind of veil or glamorification of it, to just really show the glory of the right wing ultra violence which Batman represents.
That,
I'm just like, that would be so great. No, I was ready.
Well,
I'm always ready for that shit.
Yeah, but who's gonna pay him for that?
I'll pay him for it.
Like Tim Burton Batman.
But Tim Burton was just like, wee.
But I mean, everybody credits that with being so very influenced by Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah,
I don't see it.
I don't really
much.
see that either. I guess Tim Burton he's a Disney kid.
Well, yeah, I think
more than anything, he's a Disney kid.
Well, two things. One, it's never underestimate the power of marketing. Two, because of
true that
at the time. You got to remember at the time this was that Tim Burton Batman was becoming a thing, and this was going to come into play in our next episode. Tim Burton Batman was the thing. You had Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen become a massive thing. And this is and so you then have an era of 3 to 5 to 10 years of bang zoom, comics aren't just for kids anymore headlines. So, but you have like, okay, Batman is dark and violent now thanks to this one comic and the fact that in this cinematic adaptation he's not in blue and gray.
Well, the Tim Burton aesthetic was very
black leather.
Yeah, he's all black,
neutral.
But it's all black,
and fetishistic.
But only on the most superficial level. That it was this. Well, it looks kind of dark and gothy because he was lucky enough that this one. Oh, by the way, there's this production designer who's working for Warner Brothers. We think we should have him on your film, Tim. And what's his name? Oh, his name's Anton First. Okay, well, let's bring him along. It was taken as a far more darker and adult and more serious thing, more so than Tim Burton brought to it. I think that, especially from the last 20 odd years of Tim Burton projects, we see what he can do, and even from Batman, was it Batman Returns? Kind of the much more not necessarily
Batman
screwball,
Returns.
but almost like fairy tale stuff.
It was sort of a screwball fairy tale, BDSM leather fantasy.
More than a little of that.
But for children.
Yeah.
It's a BDSM leather fantasy for children who are more comfortable with a certain level of graphic violence than adult audiences tend to be.
Yeah, this is a BDSM fantasy for 90s kids.
That's right.
BDSM fantasy
and we lapped it up, darling. We lapped it up.
That had tie-in McDonald's Happy Meal toys.
That's right.
Did they have those?
Never underestimate your audience.
No, but let's and we will use that as a transition right after this break.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, that's fine. It's
But
oh my God, Catwoman and Batman Returns.
As I said, this is.
I know, I know, like multiple lesbians for whom that was their primal moment Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns
Oh,
as
man,
Catwoman.
yeah.
So many girls were turned to, dare I say, the dark side.
What happened to Michelle
Like,
Pfeiffer
how
after that? She
fabulous.
didn't really do a whole lot since.
She was in the movie with Coolio. She was in
That Gangster's Paradise.
Yeah, she was in
the
Amish
theme song
Paradise.
of?
Oh yeah, she did. Yeah,
Where she was, she was the white lady who
She's done stuff since.
Yeah, certainly done stuff. But she was the white lady who went down to the hood
to
and
teach the black class. It was just
to teach it, but to teach them about not about hip hop or rap, which is what the actual subject of those films used was hip hop and rap. No, in the
poetry.
film,
Dylan Thomas.
No, it was not just Dylan Thomas. It was fucking Bob Dylan, because we need to sell this to like white boomers.
How can I reach these kids?
You have to learn how to cheat.
Okay, can I make a really irrational request? Can I please hear Gangster's Paradise right now? Make it happen for me. It'll only take 3 minutes.
Hey, can I?
But when I need Gangster's Paradise, I really need it. Yeah, tell him that he should love himself more. That the world is a glorious place, and if things get really bad, you can just ask the Goblin King to come and take you away right now. And one time out of 5 or so, Goblin King will actually come through for you. So
Don't
give
worry.
up that gold ring.
Don't worry about the baby.
Don't worry about the babe. You have 13 hours.
Turn back, Sarah.
Turn back, Sarah, before it's too late.
I'm trying to remember if I can't remember when the last time Rachel said she had seen that film.
There's going to be a national screening really, really, really soon.
Well,
where it's actually like on big screens in like major movie theaters, and I kind of want to go just because I want to hear the screaming.
Well, not just that, but because we like, I deliberately moved to this neighborhood. Going back to our earlier conversation about when we moved to Portland, I originally moved into a place up on like 6th and Prescott, which is 2 miles north of here in Northeast Portland, just south of what is now like even more hilariously overdeveloped Alberta. But anyway, summer July 2010, landlord / ex-roommate, he's like, I got an offer on the house, I'm going to sell it. I just want to give you guys a heads up. I want to give you a heads up that I'm going to sell this thing and everyone's going to move out. And so I have to figure out like where the hell in Portland Metro am I going to move? And I realized, well, F it, I need to live within walking distance of the Laurelhurst Theater.
1%er, how's that feel?
Well, yes and no. I didn't say Laurelhurst neighborhood. I said Laurelhurst Theater.
I know what you said.
I wind up, thanks to the magic that is Craigslist, I wind up at an Edwardian boarding house over on 20th and Davis for a little bit more than what I'm paying here. It's just a room in a boarding house. But the thing is, it's 8 blocks away. So I've been living in this neighborhood for 6 years now, and it's like, wow, this is awesome because I can start. It's central enough that I can drunkenly stagger to Beulah Land.
You got chopsticks too.
Yes, but not in. Well, actually no. That's so much because.
The Laurelhurst.
More importantly, the Laurelhurst, Foggia, and Magic Creek Deli, and Beulah Land. But it's pretty much Beulah Land and the Laurelhurst that were like my 2 main things.
Well, now we know where my main things differ from yours, Jeremy Salmon.
Well, it's because we live in. Yes, it's. To quote to quote a certain film director, it's all a rich tapestry.
It's a rich tapestry.
But it's kind of a thing where and eventually, years later, I would, where Rachel got kind of like had to leave her place in Southwest, and I had all of the not exactly roommates, but more like floor mates who were complaining about me together in the kitchen of the place that I lived in. Like, okay, fine, well, F y'all. So we found this place not too far away in the same basic neighborhood. I'm not going to give away the exact address because it's the modern era and the internet. But I stayed in the neighborhood because it's like, hey, it's awesome to have the Laurelhurst right there. No, I bring this up because in terms of when after David Bowie died, a week later, the Laurelhurst had Labyrinth up on the big screen.
That's right. Was it the Laurelhurst or the Hollywood?
More than likely both, but at least I know the
Laurelhurst.
I saw it as a Hollywood a couple of years ago, also, but
no, but we definitely saw it at the Laurelhurst in January. Yeah, in January.
That's when it happened.
Yeah,
maybe.
in January, like I said, a week later, and it's kind of like trying to explain to both her and other people, like, okay, the reason why the Dark Crystal is very, very different from the Labyrinth is because, okay, you have, same basic Muppet and technical crew, but Terry Jones started the script on one, did not start on the script on the earlier one, which is why why Labyrinth is far more English and far more like, dare I say, Python-esque and far more like sarcastic.
It is a bit.
yeah.
It's got fart jokes.
Well, not just that, but also like watching.
It's very Terry Jones.
Watching Dark.
Scarier too. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're correct. But watching Dark Crystal, I think the thing about seeing Dark Crystal as an adult is that I can remember. I can't remember at what point in the film, but at some point it's a thing where where I got the realization that not that they necessarily cared more about it, but it's like they were far better at production design than they were at the script. Whereas it becomes a film that's far more about these awesome visuals and like this cool created
in the detail. The detail.
This cool created worlds rather than
the actual story itself.
This compelling like fairy tale story. And it's kind of like, well, the story's just kind of like okay, but it becomes nothing compared to, well, the characters and the story become nothing compared to what like Labyrinth does 6 years later.
Yeah,
and the fact
Labyrinth also has the advantage of and this is really significant for audiences, and I will not let go of its significance, the sexual awakening of a young female character.
Oh, so many
It's
of her
kind
friends.
of what cinema is based on in a lot of ways, is like the sexual awakening of a character and or the audience, or by extension the audience, and or in the case of Labyrinth, where the adolescent main character's sexual awakening happens so both abruptly and gradually. Like, it's happening through the entire movie, and then when it actually happens, it's literally, there are literally screams induced from the audience because it's so astonishingly exactly on the nose of the sort of adolescent female fantasy of what a sexual experience is going to be like, and it's on the nose to a level which I'm amazed that no one's parodied it yet, because it would make a hilarious parody of exactly like, this is kind of what girls want and have wanted, and or they want it so much it terrifies them. And so there's a lot of different ways you can go with that, but it's something that every viewer, unless they're very, very young, is going to pick up on. And so you kind of carry that message from the film and how you feel about that.
Forever. Mm-hmm.
It's only forever, not long at all.
It's kind of...
I know many girls around that age who's experienced their sexual.
We experienced our sexual
awakening
blossoming into
to,
womanhood.
David Bowie's package on screen.
Thank God of David Bowie and his gray breeches. of Goblin King mastery.
Yeah, seen it on either screen or more
Blu-ray.
likely. Yeah, well, VHS
Or on the big screen.
Yeah.
It's a hell. Wow, it's really. It's not something you can deny or
in your
ignore.
face.
Very
It's
much-
really right there.
Yeah,
There's
very much so.
contours.
Yeah, it's
A lot of contours.
seen it. VHS versus and I guess technically on screen, more likely VHS in 1986 versus 2 decades later,
Yeah.
and it's a thing where even seen this at the Lower Hearst.
No pun intended.
Seen this at the Lower Hearst earlier this year,
It's
and
dirtier
just
now, isn't it?
It's a thing.
seen this
It's
at
a
the
thing you can't deny.
yeah, seen this at the Lower Hearst, and just audience laughter and like multiple women showing up in was this Friday or I can't remember if this was like the opening night or second night, but multiple women there in costume. In cosplay,
in the costume for the ball.
not
I
yeah,
assume
no. Well, one of them was a woman as Jareth.
there are,
and I
of
think
course,
there was at least-
there's always a woman as Jareth because a
great.
lot of other women had a slightly different sexual awakening on the side of that, which I also count as absolutely valid and important for America's future. And if we don't harness that energy, we're going to be wasting a massive amount of innovation. If you know what I'm picking up. Yeah, so you have women as the Lady Jareth. Occasionally have people dressed to go to the ball where Jareth has put out the bargain that he has put forth for Sarah, that it's on her to pick up. And
I have to wonder if Jareth does this kind of thing all the time, and everybody else at the ball was somebody else who he was taunting and tormenting, and he was gonna.
Yes, that's what I've always thought.
That would be a great kind
That's
of
what I've always
comic
thought.
book or extrapolation. From,
I know.
Like, going back into that world, and
Alas, my former coworker from Dark Horse is now doing that at
Who handles it? They would,
IDW.
I was gonna say IDW. They would.
Sierra Hahn
Is it the
doing
same as what I described about
almost precisely, and I'm so angry and jealous, and at the same time I'm like, yeah, you go, girl. But that's exactly the kind of thing that I would be doing were I allowed to do so at Dark Horse, but I'm not actually allowed to do that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm not allowed to have ideas that I can then run with.
And why not franchise that thing? It's like they can make.
It's been
franchised.
franchised. All you have to do is
Pinhead
talk to the right
can
people.
appear to different characters and have. And,
Yeah.
and likewise,
unfortunately,
We have
Dark
such
Horse
things
is-
to franchise to you.
No.
Well, and-
Unfortunately, Dark Horse is a company that is very much run by the patriarchy and the male gaze, and so these things that appeals explicitly
The
to
gays,
the female
they're up
gaze
to- they're always up to something,
Are
those gays.
completely. Oh, I know. God bless them.
the
Thank
female
God,
gaze
we would
too.
have pants that fit right otherwise.
The male gaze.
The male gaze.
I think the female gaze are at least as responsible.
Oh, they
for
are,
demise
but it's
as the male gaze.
it's more it's more pervasive. It's a little bit. It's done more subtly.
I'm getting content for at least from our conversation. I'm getting either ideas or content for at least 5 different episodes.
But
to
That's
this,
what
so.
I'm here
I was
for.
gonna
It's why I make
say
big bucks,
Labyrinth could be franchised out in much the same way as The
Yes.
Crow was
Yes.
franchised out to different storylines.
Yes, and the
different
Dark
crows
Crystal
and
as
whatnot.
well. All the that sort of Jim Henson output from that particular era is so rich.
I don't know
Then
how
you
they
can
can
just- you can
franchise
do
a
whole
movie like The
things.
Hangover. They just have the same shit keep happening to the same
It's
shitty
because
people.
The exact same stupid
but,
film executives are doing the exact same drugs,
Well,
and nobody can do anything.
There are
about
so many great things that can be franchised in much more interesting ways. I think they should already have a Ghostbusters 3, 4, and 5
Right?
now.
I agree
That was-
completely.
Yeah, that was part of the thing of why was there with such an idea? Why was there not such an idea? Even if you were wanting to go for, if you were cutting down the aspirational heights of Dan Aykroyd's original peyote, God knows what kind of drug vision of
He's got Asperger's.
Well,
It's okay. He doesn't
it was-
need drugs.
but the idea, the franchise idea, and which they explicitly mentioned, the franchise alone will make us millionaires. That they mentioned in the original film. Why was there not more again, much like as what we'll talk about with the with Hollywood, one of the Hollywood's greatest sins, which is the chronic, decades-long underuse of Ernie Hudson. Why were there not more Ghostbusters films? Like just taking, like, okay, you have a basic idea, and you have the these basic characters,
Even
and just
a
like let 'em-
direct-to-video like movie focusing on Winston Zeddemore, I would watch the shit out of that.
They tried to base the plot of the Ghostbusters video game.
But for Commodore 64.
No, the third script. It was effectively the third.
The script for part 3.
Because I played the shit out of the one for the Commodore 64. It was dope.
Apple II for me.
But this is voiced by all the original
Yeah,
actors.
which actually I can show you. I can show y'all on. I have that game on the computer behind me. No, it is effectively, the game is
working your way through the sets and stories of Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. I played the beginning of it.
It's definitely worthwhile. It's kind of it does not necessarily have the it's kind of, in an ideal world they would have Andrea Romano and Ivan Reitman as voice directors. They don't, so what are you gonna do? But at least all the original characters are there, minus Sigourney Weaver. But
I don't think Rick Moranis did that.
Right, you already. He was not, because by that point he'd retired from voice work.
Oh, God bless you, Rick.
Well, but did you retire from Hollywood altogether?
Yeah, he's
for the majority part. Yeah,
he's like, I'm taking my Honey, I Shrunk the Kids money, and
yeah.
Well, no, he did it. No,
I'm gonna do banjo records. And
no, he
fuck off.
He did a Nerdist. He did a Nerdist ep a couple years ago. It's pretty much, which helps elucidate on it, but it's effectively like, from the story that I always heard through the magical internet, was that because his wife died, he kind of retired from Hollywood to help raise his kids, to pretty much just raise his kids for the last couple 2 decades. And decided that he liked being retired. And much like with certain people, like with certain stars like Steve Guttenberg, he had made enough money during their golden, apex years. They didn't have to, if you make enough money, having to go slog back through the.
I never understood
get
that
investments money though. Yeah,
it was like. For like several years, he was in everything. He was, the likable main character. And,
and then he was gone.
And then he was just like, yeah.
That's how you do it. I have enormous admiration for him,
Did
actually.
Madeline Stowe do the same thing? Because she was in everything else.
Maybe,
but
kind of,
But
maybe.
it wasn't the kind of money, so it's not really the same thing. That,
I think
you can't, as a female actor during that time frame, you couldn't just make all the money and retire.
Well,
you were going to make anything like the money.
Right. I think with from my limited knowledge, at least with female actors, again, you hit that age limit of 35, and I say this as someone who as a male white dude who turned 40 this month. Wow, that's effed up.
Happy birthday!
Woo! Happy
Danke.
birthday!
De nada.
I wish you happy birthday.
It was well, you saw the post. You saw the pictures I posted, correct?
Did
you see the posters the pictures I posted? For my 40th birthday party, I decided to do the mature thing, and I held it at Purrington's.
I didn't.
Have you? Well, you've heard of Purrington's, correct?
I haven't blocked you or anything.
Purrington's.
Okay, Purrington's is a cat.
It's a cat cafe thing.
Cafe.
Yes, it is a cat cafe on Fremont on MLK.
Oh, maybe I did see them. Yeah, that rings a bell.
It is, but it's kind of, it was much like my 33rd birthday was a pizza and video game thing that happened at Ground Control, because why the hell not? For when I turned 40, it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I took the example of Dave Barry, who once wrote that he decided to have his 40th birthday in Germany because he wanted to be surrounded by as much beer as possible. I figured it'd be, I would do the Portland thing and do my 40th birthday
Surrounded by as many cats as possible.
Yeah, just do it at Purrington's, and And just like just lots of, it was great. In fact, I can, if any of you guys want a little, I have a couple gift bags left over. I can give you a gift bag that I made.
Yes, please. Oh my God. That's great.
I made gift bags for people for coming out, just because it's like, hey, this is going to be like, this is, it's my birthday, which means I can set like, hey, everyone come meet at this place and let's do this dumb shit. And it's awesome. And it's, it wasn't video games. It was going to the Cat Cafe. It was the first time I ever actually spent any time there. Mm-hmm. To active listeners, we heavily recommend visiting Purrington's in Portland, Oregon. At Northeast MOK and Fremont.
I haven't been there yet, and it's killing me. Like, I was gonna go, and then a friend of mine was like, well, maybe we're thinking about getting a cat. And I'm like, well, would you go with me to Purrington's? And he said, yeah, sure. And then that didn't happen, and now months have gone by, and I still haven't gone to Purrington's. And it's getting kind of, I don't know what to do.
Can I bring a kid there? Can I take my daughter?
Certainly, yeah.
Yes.
I think there is
they encourage
she's
that.
6.
In fact,
She is from 6.
I think she's there. I think they have certain. You can bring a 6-year-old there. I think there are certain. I don't know if it's how free. I would check the website first. I think there's a certain requirement versus on certain hours where they just all the everybody in the cat cafe, because they want to have like not necessarily happy hours but certainly chill hours from maybe 5 to 8, that they want to have. You have to be like 15 years old before you be just to have like, for people who want to be there just to chill out. But definitely you can. As far as I know, you can.
They are okay with having kids there.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, because Sasha can be chill.
All right.
And it's filled with adorable cats, half of whom I'm already in love with, which is why I wanted to go there with a friend that was maybe thinking about bringing one home, because I can't do that. So ideally, if I fell in love with a cat, then I could pass it on to my friend, and then it would be their cat, and then I'd see the cat all the time, but it wouldn't have to be mine.
And as an example of a cat that is memorable and that you want to bring home, we'll talk about Gabriel, the extra long-haired white floof cat from the film The Crow.
Oh my God!
It's okay.
How do you do it, Jeremy Simon?
It's called Working Way Too Hard About It.
Segue.
Segue. So this will either be a new episode or a continuation of our previous one. I have no idea how I'm going to edit it, but we're going to talk about the comics, the film, the sequels, sort of, the soundtrack, and our own personal histories with the at this point, the IP, the franchise that is The Crow.
The cultural phenomenon that
Indeed.
resulted in the explosion of The Crow in 1994 on...
And before, remember the film. The
film. We're
the film. But I think we should also bring in the fact that the comic. We need to talk about the comic, as you two are sequential art well, if not professionals, at least.
Thank you. That's lovely.
At least far more. Oh,
Thank you.
No, wrong one, wrong way. You're. You got it?
Yes.
Okay, for a minute you were cutting out my headphones. You're far more into the world of the professional world of sequential art than my engineering ass ever was.
I don't want to talk about the professional world of sequential art.
Comic-Con demands now the professional credentials every 3 years.
Really?
I think I hit my 3-year mark, but I didn't go this year, so it didn't matter. But
do they make?
I don't have any recent credentials to really add.
God damn it!
Do they make you like recert or something, or do you get like a blood test or like a semen test or something?
Well,
or like
you have to reapply for your professional credentials to get in as a pro.
Really? Wow.
Every 3 years.
Oh God!
I mean, unless you're like.
I mean, I understand, but.
I mean, I'm sure like while Will Eisner. Cross yourself.
Will Eisner, yet owner
was alive. I'm sure they didn't make him.
Yeah.
I'm sure he continued to produce stuff, but
owner of Eisner Glass is seen in the film The Crow and the comic.
Eisner Glass. It's where you go when you know. Will Eisner, he did The Shadow. Yeah, boom. That's
No,
all
but
I know.
please continue. But it's
He didn't. Did he do what?
What?
He did the shadow.
Yes,
yeah,
he
no,
did.
Will
what?
Eisner created the Shadow
Yes, he's the
Okay,
creator
right.
of and did like
among
some
many
of the
many
best
other
work
things.
on the title, really. But only
I wasn't
nerds
aware of the shadow.
know that.
Well,
part.
it's his Shadow was.
I mean,
Not quite. I don't know if it was necessarily the same. It wasn't quite the same as the Orson Welles radio, pulp hero radio star Shadow,
they
but
should
it was
really work on integrating those two things.
Yeah, I thought the shadow was like a pulp magazine,
which it was. Yes,
before
yes, it was.
Yeah,
And
but
I
at the
always
same time, like
associated
they're,
Will Eisner with the Spirit as his.
You're right. It was the Spirit, not the Shadow. The Shadow.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
This
The Spirits was
man.
the white dude
Spirit.
in the mask and in the blue and white suit. The Shadow, as portrayed by everyone from Orson Welles through Alec Baldwin, which is a
He's
hell of a
the only
gamut.
one who knows, apparently. He's the only one who knows. The
Oh, yeah.
Shadow. He's the only one who knows.
Right.
And
Pathetic nose.
to this point, only the Shadow has a major pinball game. The Spirit has no pinball game yet.
Yeah, suck it, Spirit. You're irrelevant. I mean,
but,
the art's very good,
Indeed.
but I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
I love.
But
Will
in
Eisner,
but
sorry.
but but in terms of art, let's talk about. Let us. We will start with what is John. What is your personal history? When did you first hear or find out about the Crow?
I guess I was in high school when I guess I was around the time I did most of my comics collecting. I was really it was a cool time to be into comics, like around late 80s, early 90s. It was like right before
That was awesome. It was great. There was no shame. There was no hiding. There was no weirdness about availability. There's a lot of really great titles and really great work being done
and
at
the
that time.
explosion of the indie scene.
Yeah.
And the explosion of Image, for
That's
better or
when I
for
got
worse, at
into
that
it.
time. It did so much for the landscape of comics, and the way that the industry tried to capitalize on the collectability of comics by releasing all the foil covers.
Oh yes, the Chromium Age.
I mean, I was the generation that stuff was marketed to.
But it looks really cool. To this day, it looks like a really great variant cover with a hollow
Polybags don't
foil.
look cool. Polybags is just like is bullshit. It's just
what?
is sealed in plastic just for the sake of preserving it. And if you read it, then you're ruining.
You got fingerprints on it.
I was at a panel discussion about that stuff in the early 90s, and someone was challenging some image creators about stop releasing all these. And Jim Lee chimed in. He's like, well, usually when we polybag a book, it's just to hold something extra that we're giving the reader inside the book, like a trading card,
The breath of the master. Yeah.
button, a pin that's not available anywhere, and it's these other promo items it's holding
The
together.
holographic card.
I kind of bought it at the time. I was like, yeah, I can see it's just a utilitarian.
How foolish.
You need something to hold those things
How
in there.
foolish.
You don't want to.
No, it's just a fancy bag, darling.
And
Fancy bag.
and what was your particular history with your personal history from the beginning of the
I
Crow
had a
Fly?
friend, the same friend that got me into comics, dear Jefferson Powers. I wonder if he listens, but I doubt it. He's completely disconnected from every single thing. But he had been funneling me comics for some years, and I basically just read whatever he put in front of me because he was generally never wrong. And he managed to put in front of me the full run of the first run of The Crow by James O'Barr, and I was horrified and yet totally fascinated by it because I had never seen a comic so bleak in my life, and it was very attractive to me. And I got some of the in jokes of the little bits that James O'Barr put in, and so I thought it was really cool. And I went through college, and things went on. I knew a few things about comics, but not really. And then once I got out of college, comics started becoming more and more important to me, and so I started going to stores more and looking at stuff. And then they announced that they were making a movie of The Crow, and I thought that was hilarious and probably pretty ill-advised. But, I got a group of folks together, and we went to see it. And I remember, maybe 10 minutes in the movie, turning to my seatmate and saying, "It's the first Gothic American film, you guys. This is really, really important. This is the film that they made for Goths by Goths. This is got the wellspring of an entirely new movement. Everyone, check it out."
I was kind of offended because I thought that what The Crow did for, at the time, goth culture. I didn't think
it was kind of almost like it was over.
I thought it was an attempt to brand what goths think.
Yeah,
and how goths
very
act
much
and,
so,
and
very
the
much so.
Morality code of being a goth.
To commercialize
to
it
me,
at last.
To me, the comics that really canonized what goth culture, what it was at that time, late 80s, early 90s, that was Neil Gaiman and the Sandman.
Yes,
Sandman, Vertigo.
But though you weren't seeing adaptations of those things.
Oh, no, you should have.
Not even a little bit. I mean, the closest thing to it is the BBC adaptation of Neverwhere, which I consider totally precious. But again, it's not that gothic,
but
really.
It bothers me that Hollywood decided to latch onto the more sinister and I guess the more revenge fuel.
Yeah,
amoral.
It's an anomaly.
It was
really.
There's
no logic behind that. There's no specific logic that tells you that hey, let's exploit the goths. There's something here that commerce will always have primacy on because they need these things. We will separate them from their money.
It was gothic costuming. I mean, it was a look. It was kind of like Hot Topic version goth.
It was Hot Topic goth was suddenly in front of everybody, and they seemingly kind of liked it, and so it was like, oh wow, a whole bunch of 5th and 6th graders are going to be super into goth now.
But
that's kind of interesting.
Sting, the wrestler, did his whole crow face makeup, and that, everybody knows how goth pro wrestling always is.
I will not hear an ill word spoken about pro wrestling in this house.
But I'm not saying it's not for everybody. Hillbilly Jim is a hero of mine.
That's an entire, but not just that, but it's
Did you hear about the in the Olympics, the Iranian wrestler kid who wasn't allowed to wrestle because he was going to wrestle Israel, and Iran doesn't recognize Israel's legitimacy as a country.
I said this year's Olympics?
It's
actually. Wow, this is bad.
But Iran has been letting the Iron Sheik wrestle Americans ever since I was a kid, and that's such an about face. Israel, I understand they don't recognize Israel as a country, but I don't think they recognize the America as a country or a
the inconsistency hits
crazy. Why would they let the Iron Sheik wrestle Hulk Hogan? Say
I cannot speak to the intercontinental diplomacy of who's allowed what. All I can say is
I told you so.
Yes, this entire time you have besieged us with your pitches for T-shirts to sell to people at various
the Hot Topic
modern
thing.
You call it your alt Etsy, and it's no, it's a yes, alt Etsy. You might be able to make money for it, but we don't want any part of this alt Etsy. Yes.
Look at the shirt I'm wearing.
Your shirt says Cabron.
It says Cabron, and it's like the Cobra logo from G.I. Joe, but it's actually a
With a
goat's
Yeah.
head.
With a,
This was
That's
designed
a deep
by
cuts, baby.
my
Deep
good
cuts.
friend Juan Fernando
There you
Garcia
go.
of lblackbat.com.
Excellent.
what can he design a T-shirt that has the logo for pagan people against goodness and normalcy?
If he hasn't already, I'm sure.
Design. It's just something
None
to whip
you,
out.
none of you guys have. None of you guys remember Dragnet, the film?
I do. I know exactly what
of
you're talking
course,
about.
I remember.
Co-starring Emil Muzz and Jack Halloran, the guy who played Nod from Superman 2, playing Emil Muzz.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Anyway,
I know.
but
Just you, me, your balls,
and
and this drawer.
in this drawer, yes. I'm Abel Muzz, and I'm a pagan. This is a dumbass recording. What we're not going to stop because why?
Oh my gosh.
I might as well, like, at this point I'll take my turn. I can remember, going to those Motor City Comic Cons growing up in Michigan. My first Motor City Comic Con was either like spring or fall of '92. And driving down to Novi, Michigan, which is about a half an hour outside of Detroit,
Novi.
and going there
I've
for
always
years.
wondered how you pronounce that.
Novi.
Novi.
It's Novi, Novi. It's about that remarkable.
Yep.
Where does it appear on the mitten?
On the mitten, it is between. You have Detroit. No, a little bit closer to the water. Well, it's south. Your thumb is not high enough, but there you go. Yeah, there he goes.
My fingers are just stubby.
John, for you watching at home, John is trying to illustrate the Michigander technique
mitten.
of how to illustrate a map location on his hand.
For Michiganders that aren't from the Upper Peninsula,
Well, from the Ooper, huh? I want to talk to the Oopers in the crowd.
losers.
Michiganders.
Oh, you like you Oopers, you lopers, huh?
I don't know if that's even relevant, man.
It's a left hand, isn't it? That
I should just put on the entire. Hang on a second. Give me a second. I just realized I should just probably just like put on the entire damn soundtrack on the. Where's Spotify? Give me Spotify.
oh
See that thing.
the after the Stone Temple Pilots. That
All the tough guys. listen to.
that is the most
But no,
gothy band.
well, no, but it's so much. I think that song I really like. I mean, it wasn't like Alice in Chains and like the Rooster, which would cut into episodes of Beavis and Butthead. I think they would, if memory serves, they would play Big Empty, the STP tune during Beavis and Butthead as well.
To me, the Big Empty sounded just like another Stone Temple Pilots song. The one that
I am.
No. It begins the same way. It goes like.
So many cuts from MTV Unplugged.
And then instead of going take time with a wounded, they went time to take her home. But it's the same thing.
I don't know if we're necessarily alienating or triggering so many people listening to this. Is like, if you're of a certain age, you remember this far harder than you would want to.
I get at the time. I get confused as to which song it was. Which Stone Temple Pilots song was start. If I heard it on the radio, I would.
There were so many. Ladies and gentlemen, the early '90s was a time where, early mid '90s, where even if you strongly disliked the Stone Temple Pilots and their ilk, it was very difficult to ignore them and or like escape from them because shit was everywhere.
To my friends in San Diego, or to our listeners in San Diego, well, I know that the radio hasn't really changed much, and the Stone Temple Pilots, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Nirvana, and the whole early 90s
thing.
It's still in full swing.
Yeah, what is best described as classic rock for 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds. For younger Gen Xers and older millennials. If you want to like break things down into the terms that you would see in a New York Times bit.
The generation that Kurt Cobain was the spokesman for.
Yes.
That's us.
X of the generation.